Welcome to another Big Jimny video. This video is all about the Gen 4 and keeping the battery charged. If you like my videos, then please press the like button, and if you want to be informed about new videos when they're uploaded, please press subscribe. There's been a lot of conversations on the internet about charging on the Gen 4. This is because some people have experienced problems with the battery going flat. This appears to be a combination of, first of all, the low mileage that people are doing in them. Quite a few of them are sort of like this one, garage cars that are kept out and taken out at the weekend. But also there is some debate around the charging circuit on these. Now, whilst other cars across the Suzuki range have had charging control built into them for a number of years, this is the first time that a Jimny's had one. Connected to the battery here is a sensor on the negative side, which forms part of the limb circuit. This circuit is connected through the ECU and the alternator and is used to measure the load on the car. The electrical load on the battery plus the ECU is measuring the general load on the car through the parameters of the fuel injection and so on. What this enables it to do is when the engine is struggling, when the engine has got lots to do, the ECU starts offloading some of the effort that the engine has to do. So you can do things like it winds back the air conditioning or even turns it off, but also it turns off the alternator to stop the charging going on. Now, we know that it does this at startup. So you start up from cold, and when the engine's cold, the oil is thick, everything is cold, the engine's got more work to do. So in fact, the ECU and the body control unit wind back the alternator. Now, if you're only doing a very short journey, this means that the battery doesn't get the charge put back in it that was taken out due to starting. It gets some put back in it because obviously the car warms up a little bit, but it doesn't get it all, and gradually it goes flat. Also, in some countries, the dealers are putting in oil which is too thick. Well, when I say too thick, is not to the standard Suzuki recommendation. This means that the oil is thicker on startup and therefore is giving more load to the engine, which means the engine commands the battery charging circuit to switch off. So some people have experienced charging problems. Ours, as I said, is a bit of a garage princess. It's kept in the garage here, beautifully cleaned and polished, but that means also that it doesn't go out that often. And as you can see from this meter reading here, there's a steady discharge running on the battery of around about 4 milliamps. I've also quickly checked my Gen 3, as you can see in this insert, and that is also happily sitting there discharging the battery. This will be things like the circuits to keep the radio stations tuned in, and the central lock-in and security systems will be running for the alarm circuit and the immobilising type circuits. So there is a continuous drain on the battery, and sitting in the garage, whilst it's nice and warm in here, isn't good for the battery. So we want to use a charger to keep the battery topped up. In fact, it's more than a charger. This is a battery conditioning and maintenance charger. I use these for our boat, which sits out in the boatyard all winter from October till March in the snow and the ice, and it's got the batteries in it. Now, you've got two choices with boats. Quite a few people lift the batteries out, but we choose to leave them in and put a conditioning charger on there. This sits there night and day, just keeping the batteries topped up. But better than that, it's providing some charging and conditioning circuitry to keep the batteries in the best of health. Here you can see on this little diagram an actual recording of my batteries on the boat, and you can see the little pulses occurring here which show the conditioning circuit is conditioning the batteries. And this has kept our batteries on the boat, sort of in the boatyard, in the snow and the ice, and they've been outside for 5 years, and they're not used for a good 4, 5, 6 months of the year sometimes. So these things do well. That's opposed to something like this, which is the good old half-wave rectified charger. Okay, these are brute force chargers that really don't do much good to the batteries. In fact, they'll happily boil a battery. The one we use is a Ctek Charger. For both the car and the boat, we use the MXS5. Okay, this is supposedly a sort of 5 amp charger. You don't need an enormous amount of amps because the battery should be in good condition before you start. And therefore it's really just doing some maintenance work. And as I say, this works on the boat batteries, which are huge batteries, and a pair of them in parallel, with a split relay system. So just a little 5 amp charger happily keeps those batteries well and truly topped up. So we're putting one on here. These come with a little adapter lead, so that you don't have to clip it to the battery every time. You just plug the charger into the adapter. As you can see, I've screwed the adapter lead onto the plus and minus terminals here. Just using some little nuts onto the end of the existing poles, and leave this here under the bonnet. We'll tend to get a longer one. There's different accessory kits for this. Get a long one and extend this inside the car. Why do I want it inside the car? Because that way I have the charger hanging out the driver's window, and it becomes immediately clear to anyone getting in the car and taking it out that the charger's attached. If it's under the bonnet, there's always a chance that we drive off with the power still connected. So got one of those one of these leads, but they do a longer version. It's on order. We'll just bring it through into the cabin and use the charger from there. So there really is nothing more to it than that. This plugs in, and as you can see here now, it goes through a conditioning cycle. This takes a few minutes to run through to get it to settle down to the point where it's conditioning. So it's going to assess the battery, it's going to start charging it. Once it's charged, it goes over to conditioning, which is highlighted by the LED pattern on the front of the charger. So I hope that was useful to you. As I say, batteries on these do seem to have a bit of a reputation for going flat, probably because people aren't using them. Hopefully putting something like this on will solve your problems. So until the next video, thank you very much for watching. Hope this was useful to you, and I'll catch you up next time.